Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jörg Müller. I'm presenting you today a session, Construction Goes Digital, as part of the Big Five Digital Festival Africa. We're showing here how digital solution improve the efficiency, compliance, and safety in large infrastructure projects. I myself work since about 20 years in infrastructure projects. I come from the renewable energy business, electrical business, and we are building a very large offshore wind power plants in the megawatt size, multiple megawatt size. I'm the founder and managing director of a company called ToolKitX. This is a software solution which we developed over the past 10 years, basically for planning and managing complex industrial construction sites and assets. We are looking at power grids, we're looking at renewable energy, we're looking at large infrastructure facilities, industrial assets, industrial plants, and roads and other infrastructure projects like bridges and tunnels. We ourselves have developed a modular cloud platform for project management, project communication in a digital environment. We consider ourselves as a leader in this field, where we're basically providing both cloud-based software platform and a mobile app for the digital field force. We cover about 21 independent modular software packages, which help basically reducing the project risk, reducing the project cost, and improving on efficiency and quality in such infrastructures. We're also improving on the communication with the mobile field force by giving everybody access to the same kind of information from the last worker in the field to the project managers and the managing directors and CEO of the project. We offer a so-called software as a service, SaaS platform, which is compliant with all general data protection regulations. We have an audit trail on our software. We're complying with the ISO quality requirements, and we are providing real-time communications basically between all your construction sites in the field and the back offices running them. So what are today's construction problems which need to be solved? There's a number of them, particularly when you work on large construction projects. You have the problem of complexity. You have typically a lot of contractors, different companies working in there. We have communication issues with that company, work coordination issues. We need to avoid delays, we need to avoid misunderstandings. And in a lot of cases, these problems are still manual problems. Means things are done by hand, things are done with Excel lists, things are done with paper trails. We have media breaks, which basically means that you have to transfer data from a, let's say, checklist, which somebody filled in by hand, to an Excel sheet, and then copy it to a management report again. This is typically very costly, particularly also if you have different software solutions in place which need to be integrated with each other. And you have additional costs for adaptations, for interfaces, and you want to avoid any kind of outdated information and increased customization on that. Our problems to solve is that there's confusing things when you capture the efficiencies. You have a lot of complexity in the processes and in the work permits, and all of this needs to be coordinated. And if you don't have a clear coordination of that, if you don't have a proper documentation of that, you're losing control and you're losing efficiency in your works. So if you get 100 or more work permits a day, and you work all this on a paper base, and you have a team of 5 to 10 people just working down on work permits and trying to coordinate the activities. There's digital tools which solve that problems, which make it way easier to work there. And I'm going to show and demonstrate a little bit here how this could work. Also, the increased pressure for the cost is always there. Quality needs to be regulated and problems solved. Health and safety becomes more and more important in all parts of the world. typically with the European and the Western leading, but also in developing nations, compliance and health and safety becomes an issue, and in particular non-compliance with health and safety causes extra costs and potential claims. So today's real situation, a couple of real life examples that happen in this world. Top right, a digger on top of a building, certainly with a certain health and safety risk, then lack of coordination on two highways connecting each other. And the guy at the bottom left jumping around unsecured in a construction site. All of this is a room for concerns, and what is the potential solutions are digital solutions which help basically connecting the construction world, the field work with the office world, using the internet, using mobile apps, and using databases which basically provide real-time access to everybody in there. And our aim on this is that you're not just capturing one part of your force. You have to capture every part of a larger project. You have to capture HSE manager. You have to capture QA manager, permit coordinators, project managers. All of these people are part of your team, and all of these people need to be addressed, and they all need to work on the same database, on the same data, ideally in real time, so they get data straight from the field into their systems. They can get a real-time reporting, they get a real-time information, and that is done via digital solution, via the internet, and via mobile apps, which basically help increasing the efficiency and saving the costs, and at the same time also increasing the level of compliance, because if your tools are digital and you can make them digitally auditable, means that whatever data is entered is linked to a username and a password, and nobody else has that username and password. Then I can also track and trail who did what activities, and I can document it, either in case of situations of accidents to authorities, but I can also document it internally against claims, against other, let's say, activities which are potentially costly and certainly time-consuming. One of the examples is the picture on the bottom here. It's basically an evolutionary model of a digital solution in the construction world. A lot of people still work on papers and files. I still see permits filled up in let's say paper sheets, and then carbon copied, and everybody receives their respective copy for the papers, and you have to carry it along when you're on the construction site. The more modern version is the Excel sheet, where Excel tables or Excel predefined forms or Word forms are filled out, and you don't even have a numbering on it, and you can reuse the form. Next level is a SharePoint, and the really next level is then dedicated software packages which help you managing digitally all aspects of construction. For digital quality management, what we are basically advocating is that the quality is happening in the field. It doesn't help if you send people with a paper checklist into the field and they have reporting the punch list, and then you copy it in your Excel and try to manage large Excel punch lists. It's much easier if you give the people the software at hand where they can snap a picture of the problems, where they can easily describe it directly on their handheld devices, and then push the data online and in real time to the quality managers. There, the data can be sorted, can be basically analyzed. You identify immediately your risk and opportunities on that. You comply in real time with all the documentation requirements which you have. And in overall terms, you improve your performance significantly. We're also looking at tools for HSE managers. HSE is becoming increasingly important, as I mentioned before. I'll quote here from a typical EPC contract, one which we're executing every day. Any incident has to be reported within 24 hours of the event. The earliest information has to be at the management as the EPC contractor 1 hour of the occurrence. One of the solutions is you pick up the phone and you try to call the guy and try to describe what happened. A much better solution is if you have a digital app available, you snap a picture of the accident and within 5 minutes you have it at your employer or at your contractor or contract owner, and basically you complying fully with those requirements and you avoid penalties. Typical penalties in this case, I'm quoting OSHA from the US. Failure to report $13,000. If you repeat that and even willfully repeat that, then it gets really expensive. Conclusion here, digital tools for real-time HSE reporting and safety notices and safety audits are really an enhancement to all of your worker safety, and it reduces significantly all of the compliance costs associated with that. Same as for the electronic permit to work, which we are advocating here. We basically, in a permit situation, use the permits to deconflict and control work activities within a certain area. Particularly when you have dangerous works, you want to make sure that you deconflict the tasks with other works which is going on. In a manual permit to work process, you use paper and use Excel sheets where you basically have to juggle with all that. Electronic permit to work, you have a much easier access to that. You give people access to a system. They apply for the permits, they apply for the safety. They apply and send you the risk assessment method statements, anything from the mobile or from the internet. You have the data in real time, you can review it, and you can basically then approve it, and everybody is informed instantly what is going on. We see electronic permit to work as a core element of an integrated safe system of work, and we use it in our own life quite extensively, particularly for isolation plannings and electrical activities. The other thing where you greatly enhance the efficiency of the field forces is the so-called electronic work order management. Work order management system basically gives the information about work that has to be done, a so-called work order, to people which execute them. In a manual world, you do that by paper. You write a work order, you hand it to the guy who has to do it. He picks it up from the office, drives to the place where the work has to be executed. Eventually signs off the work order, brings it back to the office, and eventually you give it to the accounting for invoicing processes. If you do that electronically, the guy doesn't have to come to the office. He doesn't have to be at site. In times of COVID, you avoid physical interactions with people. Everybody works on a digital basis, digital and in real time, so there's no waiting for the return of your work order. You give the guy the information where it is. You give the guy the information what he has to do. Ideally, you also give him all the documentation which he needs for the execution of the work. So what we are doing is we are integrating the work order management also with asset management solutions. So the asset information is directly available to the person in the field. You have the merging, you send somebody for generator servicing, he knows the information, has it on his mobile phone, has the information on the generator on the mobile phone, has the drawings on the mobile phone, has all the work history of that generator on his mobile phone or on his tablet, and all of that without even going to the office once. What we also see as a big trend recently is the use of 3D imaging technologies in the digital construction site. You see here in that picture a professional drone operated there. What we're doing is we're using the drones for not only simply flying over the construction site, but we are generating three-dimensional models of that construction site. That could be any site. That could also be dual cameras with thermal imaging solutions. So you could imagine if you are a utility, you work with, let's say, electric infrastructure. You also want to do thermal monitoring. You can do this drone monitoring and 3D image generating both in visual images and in thermal imaging solutions. And you could overlay these images so you see in a very great detail what kind of 3D assets you have in the field. And you can actually fly around those assets as if you're sitting in that drone and see in 3D, in a 3D environment, how this kind of infrastructure is developing, how the progress of your construction site is. And you can see a lot of applications on that. To give you an example here, we'll use the same imaging for this construction site, and we modeled here the soil movement with a 3D model by monitoring basically the before and after picture and then measuring the soil which has been moved. So you can see clearly here that in certain areas of this picture the soil has been moved. We can calculate the amount of soil movement. We can do that in the progress reporting. We can also do digital progress reporting and use these pictures in there. So you have a very clear overview also of large construction site, what is going on. Another real life example for digital and accountability here. One of our world, basically, we're working in offshore wind construction. Offshore wind construction involves large ships, vessels, as we call them, construction vessels. You see one here on the pictures. The price tag of that charter of that vessel is about 250,000 euros a day for this large construction vessel, 1,700 tons crane on it. We're installing wind turbines offshore, and basically we are using our tools for electronic permit to work for the managing of the permits, the managing of the construction sites, etc. We found here that we received permit requests from contractors with basically invalid certificates. We checked them, we rejected those permits. The next day we had the same situation again. We received invalid permit documents. We rejected them again. 2 days later, with project management meeting, we received a claim from the contractor claiming that we didn't approve the permits and they had delays, an additional cost for the vessel of 250,000 euros. We looked into our permit system, we looked into the audit trails in there, we looked into the logs, and we basically could prove to them that they requested a permit at 10 in the morning. It was rejected at 11:30. There were clear comments given on that. The permit was not resubmitted or not improved. So the claim cost or the causes of the claim is clearly with that contractor. And that was a 10-minute discussion, and the claim was basically voided. Just because we could prove in a very great detail why this permit was rejected, and we had a very clear, detailed trail and track of that with all the users verified and all the comments and auditing given. So with one of these examples, we covered a multiple of our license costs just with one incident. It's a very nice example how important auditable and legally compliant informations are. A little bit about the market for the field service. So we see a lot of increase, a market size increase for the field service market. We see that basically in the areas of construction management. We see it in utilities and renewable operators, in telecommunications and oil and gas. All of that start increasing digital tools for the construction management. Anytime when you have large field forces in the field where you have to manage large numbers of people and coordinate work activities, and that doesn't necessarily have to be construction. That could also be healthcare, where you have people giving care and they have to coordinate all the caregivers. So basically, we call it field service market, and we see a significant growth of that field service market, and we are expecting it to hit 7.2 billion in 2027 with a 15.9% annual growth. So it's a large market for us, and we're hoping to address that sufficiently. Yeah, that was it for my presentation. If you want to get in touch, this is our contact data. I'm a little bit early on this session, so I hope you enjoyed the session. Thank you very much for your attention, and please get in touch if you want more information.